Aaron Rodgers. The four-time MVP had been in camp on Monday, taking his physical, took part in the team's media day before leaving town. Both
talked about it yesterday, but Aaron and I are on the exact same page. There's no issue between Aaron or his teammates for that matter.
This YouTube channel was built on three principles: news, football, and, well, Aaron Rodgers. And I have to admit, whenever we go too long without making a new video on Aaron Rodgers, I start to twitch a little bit, because he's one of the pillars that this YouTube channel was built upon. And to be honest, the way we make content on Aaron Rodgers just gets more and more unusual as time goes on. So before we get to the content, we're giving away copies of College Football 55. All you have to do to enter is follow me on Twitter or Instagram. We're going to be giving away copies on both of those platforms. And now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? I will admit, it seems like any opportunity the media gets to make some sort of content on Aaron Rodgers, they'll run away and take it. Whether it's him having some sort of strange foot injury, which ended up just being a blister, or him considering a role as Robert Kennedy Jr.'s vice president. But the one thing I love about Aaron Rodgers is how manipulative he could be. And I don't know if he's doing this on purpose, because he might not be manipulative at all. He might just be a very funny guy. If you guys remember, after the 2023 season, which I must admit must have been a very tough season for him, a season where he was trying to come back early from an Achilles tear, Aaron Rodgers said via The Athletic that anything in this building that we're doing that has nothing to do with winning needs to be assessed. Everything that we do has to have a purpose. The bullshit that has nothing to do with winning has to get out of the building. Now, bear in mind, this is before the RFK Jr. vice president rumors were coming out, and this is after a season where Aaron Rodgers essentially made the New York Jets all about him. No one was really focused on the incremental progress in Zach Wilson's development, which he had some bright spots against the Kansas City Chiefs, for instance. Nobody was focused on the fact that Garrett Wilson was still an incredible wide receiver, despite him having a revolving door at the quarterback position. No one was focused on Nathaniel Hackett being a hack. People were focused on whether or not Aaron Rodgers would be able to return from an Achilles tear faster than anyone has ever done in NFL history, despite being 39 years old. And then at the very end, we know what would happen. He just wouldn't be able to do it, and he felt like the risk wasn't worth it, which is completely understandable. It was just a huge circus for no reason. So going into year 2 of Aaron Rodgers as a New York Jet, the expectations couldn't be higher. He's already mentioned it before in the past. The pressure that is on him as a result of what has occurred so far.
Generally, there's pressure on all of us.
All of us, yeah.
Why do you say there's pressure on you?
Well, I think if I don't do what I know I'm capable of doing, we're all probably going to be out of here. So I like that kind of pressure, though. I know it's a tough market to play in. It's not for everybody. I relish that opportunity, and that's the way the NFL is. I'm not saying anything monumental as you guys are typing away and putting your tweets out. This is how it is every single year. You might not just say it, but as you get older in the league, if you don't perform, they're going to get rid of you or bring in the next guy to take over. I mean, it happened in Green Bay. So, and I'm, a few years older than I was back then. So I expect to play at a high level. I expect this to be productive and competitive and all that stuff to take care of itself.
And I've praised the New York Jets for the team that they built around Aaron Rodgers for year 2. They've done a masterful job. Don't get me wrong, there is an overarching theme about the incoming free agency class for the New York Jets. I mean, Morgan Moses was an incredible trade, and I can't really knock that at all whatsoever. John Simpson was a smart deal as well. Moving on from Zach Wilson for Tyrod Taylor will definitely bring some stability for the New York Jets. Javon Kinlaw is a low-risk, high-reward type signing, and indirectly trading Bryce Huff for Hassan Reddick should pay off for the New York Jets as well. Considering the fact that Jermaine Johnson broke out last year, and they have Quinnen Williams, who is the best defensive tackle in football. That sounds so weird to say now that Aaron Donald's retired. Combined with Sauce Gardner, who hasn't lost a step in his sophomore year, should make the New York Jets a formidable defense to play against, but that's not where they stop. They brought in 2 players that are very talented football players when they're on the football field. The problem is whether or not they would make it to the football field. One being being Tyron Smith, who signed to a one-year deal up to $20 million, who is a Dallas Cowboys legend, but has recently run into some injury issues. But whenever he is healthy, he is one of the best left tackles in the NFL. And the other being Mike Williams, who pretty much is the same story as Tyron Smith, but at the wide receiver position. The Jets compounded this offseason with a fantastic draft class as well, drafting Ali Fashanu out of Penn State to ensure that Aaron Rodgers will be protected, because the reason why the season went last year was because Aaron Rodgers was hit within 3 snaps and then tore his Achilles. So with everything looking good, you would think that the New York Jets would be locked in during mandatory minicamp to make sure they're all on the same page, right? Well, no. As a matter of fact, drama has started as a result of it. So Hassan Reddick and Aaron Rodgers didn't show up for mandatory minicamp. And to be honest, at first I didn't really think this was that big of a deal. I got news about this 2 days ago. I said, okay, they're gonna miss some time. Maybe Hassan Reddick wants a brand new contract and he's holding out. Maybe Aaron Rodgers had some event to make it to and he's gonna show up a couple days later, but it's a little bit crazier than that. So Ian Rappaport reported on June 11, 2024 that Jets coach Robert Saleh told reporters that quarterback Aaron Rodgers is not at minicamp today, an unexcused absence that is subject to fines. Saleh said it was for an event that was quote unquote important to him. Pass rusher Hassan Reddick, who wants a new contract, is also not present. Hassan Reddick is working out, but not with the New York Jets. He just wants a new contract. This is completely normal. But Aaron Rodgers' situation is a little peculiar, and man, the media is turning on him like crazy as a result of it. Like I said, at first I thought this was just going to be a one-day thing, but it turns out that he's skipping all of Jets' mandatory minicamp this week. And look at the way Diana Russini talks about it. Aaron Rodgers is skipping all of Jets' mandatory minicamp this week because he prefers to be somewhere else away from football. That's his choice. When Robert Saleh was asked about the situation, this is what he had to say.
There was a lot of craziness that came off of Aaron's absence yesterday, as expected. Did you have any contact with him? Like, talk to him after between yesterday and today?
No, I haven't.
But Saleh was doing his absolute best to weather the storm by saying that they're on the same page.
Talked about it yesterday, but Aaron and I are on the exact same page. There's no issue between Aaron or his teammates, for that matter. So, like I said, we addressed it yesterday. It's more of an issue for everyone outside the building than it is inside, and that's about it.
But the biggest problem for me is Aaron Rodgers put his head coach, Robert Saleh, in one of the worst situations imaginable, because when you take a look at his conference with the media, you could tell that this man does not have a control of the situation at all whatsoever. You can tell that he's content letting Aaron Rodgers walk all over him. You can also tell that there is no leadership at all whatsoever in New York. Everyone's just running around free willy. I mean, look at what Michael Lombardi has to say on the Pat McAfee show, which is the top source for everything Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, that's an absence of leadership, right? I mean, they trade for Hassan Reddick, and then they're surprised he's holding out and they haven't talked to him. And every time they let Saleh go in front of this microphone, more disasters start to happen.
And man, New York media is really letting Aaron Rodgers have it as a result of this. I mean, it only took him one day to print out these headlines. In January 8th, the bull that has nothing to do with winning needs to get out of the building. Tuesday, Aaron Rodgers is AWOL from the Jets' first mandatory practice. Full of hot air. Or what about this? Call him Aaron Dodgers. QB suddenly disappears as Gang Green begins mandatory minicamp. On one hand, I think a lot of this is a little bit of overkill. At the same time, I can understand if New York Jets fans are absolutely traumatized from their football experience. I mean, being a Jets fan is one of the most miserable experiences you could ever have. Aside from being a Dallas Cowboy fan that just started following football right after the triplets era. Pretty tough to do that as well. I will admit, it's incredibly ironic that Aaron Rodgers is saying that anything that doesn't have to do with winning needs to get out of this building. He pretty much got his wish when he got traded to the New York Jets. He said he absolutely enjoyed being the quarterback of a New York-based team in year one, and obviously when you get traded from Green Bay to New York, you could pull some in Green Bay that you probably can't pull in New York. The media in New York is unforgiving. You can't just get up and leave training camp and say, hey, I'm going to something that's important to me. At the end of the day, how big of a deal do I think this is? I think it's one of those things that's being blown out of proportion because it's one, Aaron Rodgers, and two, it's June and media doesn't have anything to talk about. Do I think this is going to affect the New York Jets in the middle of the season? No, not really, but do I think it's a bad look to start out year two? Possibly, yes. At the end of the day, it seems like everybody on the New York Jets respects Aaron Rodgers and wants to give him his space to be Aaron Rodgers. It's kind of like if you ever watched The Last Dance, where Phil Jackson tells a story of Dennis Rodman going to him and Michael Jordan saying that,
hey, I need some time off.
And then he just got on a plane and went to Las Vegas and partied with Carmen Electra for a few days. In the middle of the NBA season, by the way, Michael Jordan and Phil Jackson had to go and get him. Then Dennis Rodman went back to dominating. Now, I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers is Dennis Rodman, but I could understand the philosophy that you should allow Aaron Rodgers some space to do what he wants to do, not try to control him in order for him to be the best version of himself. But at the same time, I will admit it is strange that he was participating in every single day of OTAs, but isn't there for mandatory camp. So let me know in the comment section down below if you're a Jets fan, how do you feel about what Aaron Rodgers is doing? Do you think it's a big deal, or do you think the media is just blowing this out of proportion? I like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.